You're listening to Second Mass Report, the Falling Skies podcast, and we're watching episode 1, or reviewing it, I should say. And I'm your host, Frank Stella. Along with me is
Rob Southgate. Hey, Frank, it's so good to talk to you.
It is good to talk to you, and you are on the road on this fine evening.
Yeah, we're going to have some, we may have some potentially funky sound here. I usually have this little microphone set up and everything, and nope, we're doing Skyping over an iPhone.
As long as you're not in solitary confinement.
You know what? I did pull a mirror down, and I am making some plans. Let me just put it that way.
Good. I hope you escape there really soon, because I need you.
Right. Yeah, I was live tweeting during this, and it was a lot of Orange is the New Black jokes.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
Well, it's about a prison, and had a lot of good prison jokes going on.
Oh no!
Yeah, that and then the show actually beat me to it. I kept sitting here. I was trying to make a Sound of Music joke, and I couldn't come up with it. And I'm like, what? Something with Rolf, something with Sound of Music, and then they made the Rolf reference, and I'm like, oh, they beat me to it.
That was funny stuff. I loved how Matt watches the History Channel and the girl watches movies. It was a nice, a nice disconnect.
Well, and it actually, that scene when he walked away from her and he kind of made that face, that is straight out of Sound of Music. That was
I didn't notice that, even though Sound of Music is probably the movie I've watched more than any other from when I was a kid. But interesting stuff there. Now, Rob, before we go further, I wanted to just ask you, what did you think of this episode straight up? What did you think of it?
You know, before I give a straight up answer, it's funny. I was looking online before we jumped on, and I was actually on the Falling Skies on their website. Yeah. And people were kind of busting on it.
I have not seen hardly one positive comment. Everyone hated this episode.
No. I'm
looking on their Facebook post about, hey, the show is starting starting now. Share if you're watching or whatever, or comment or whatever. Everything is negative. Everyone is ticked off and hated this episode.
Yeah. So let me give you my straight up answer.
Yeah. So let me know.
I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a lot of laying groundwork. A lot of like, hey, these are new stories. I mean, I think they basically took the show, shook it up, and they're doing something different. I'm all for that. How about you, Frank? What did you think?
I liked it, given what it is. I hope we get some more answers from kind of where we were before, leading up to the previous seasons. I still think we will. I really don't have a reason to dislike this episode. They started off making you wonder what was going on, and a lot of the people, for initial comments are saying, what's going on? I'm lost, and I'm like, well, that's what you're supposed to be. The writers, know that you're lost at this point.
They did the 4-month jump, of course. I mean, I even said to Martha, my wife, at one point, I was like, okay, I'm confused. Like, I could not figure out what was going on at one point. But you know what? Who cares? I don't want them to lay it all out there. That's what's great about this show.
Yeah, and I think a lot of fans are just finicky. I think they are, like, overcritical if it's not... I don't know. I think they just want it... If they're either bored with something or they're frustrated with something. And, I mean, I'm not trying to bash everybody here in the world. I'm just saying, enjoy the ride. Enjoy the story a little bit. We've got, 11 more episodes to go. Questions will be answered, but you want to have questions in order for them to be answered. You don't want the answer before the question.
Exactly.
You want the question before the answer. So, to whoever's listening and hated the first episode, you know what? Give it a minute to let it breathe. Don't hack off the head before it even emerges. I don't even know what I'm lowering to.
I understood what you meant by that.
I don't even know what I'm talking about, but don't do it, whatever I meant.
Yeah. Well, that was just it.
There's a whole season ahead, and I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and that was just it. They were laying a lot of questions in there. If you got the answers too quick, it's like reading the end of a book. I don't want to read the end of the book first. I want stuff laid there. I think the problem people had is it was so disconnected from what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden now, And I think it was really the way it started. It started out very much like it was the old seasons. Here they are, they're traveling, and there's some, camaraderie going on, and
And I
you
think a
know,
lot of us were looking forward to it getting back to that kind of season one feel where we're just kind
exactly.
of on the road, we're kind of camping out, we're all together, no one's
But you know
split
what?
up.
How boring is that? This show is anything but boring. Then
Well, I'm
you get
sure
attacked.
I'm sure it wouldn't have been boring, but
I don't
this
know, but
definitely shook things up because when we were left off with season three, it was like, well, doesn't it just feel like old times? And it's like, well, that
yeah,
didn't last long.
yeah, and I much preferred that they just went boom, alien attack. I was completely taken by it, and then they gate him off, and 4 months later, yeah,
It was funny because I'd been saying, they've been taking, breaks in between seasons. Usually months are going by, and what do they say in the beginning scene? They said like, "What's it been, 22 days or something?" And
yeah,
I
something
was
like
like,
that.
"Oh, well, I guess it's not going to be very long this season." And all of a sudden, boom, 4 months later, and I was like, "Oh,
Yeah. Well,
whoa,
they
okay, there it is."
really there were really a lot of questions I had about what was going on when they did that 4 month jump. It's like how were Tom and Weaver next to each other all this time? And, because Weaver wasn't just thrown in there, was he?
I get the sense that he was thrown in there. The first time we saw him thrown in there was the first time he had seen Tom in
Well,
those
that's what I
4 months,
thought, but I also
or
thought
at least 2 months.
I thought, man, I doubt they were completely isolated from each other that whole time. So but I wonder about that. What was going on there? Um, not to spoil too much before we get into that part of the conversation, but Tom he's had time to concoct a pretty elaborate plan for getting in and out of there.
And do we know what he was writing? There was a lot of writing on the wall. There was a part that he had covered up, like it looked like a
Yeah,
map of the city. What was he writing? Was he writing? It looked like historical speeches or something.
yeah, I couldn't tell. And when he was writing the one thing, yeah, he was writing. He wrote. I think he said, "Oh, say, can you see?" He had that in there, so he's putting some of that kind of stuff on. Maybe that's to throw the skitters off. Like if they can translate it, it's like, oh, he's writing, American song lyrics, or he's writing speeches. But what I was interested in is when he was writing the map, like he was really figuring, like when he put SK, is that where the skitters are, or what was that referring to? He obviously had his conversation with Cochise, and what was going on there. Like, what did he put on the map? Is that his new meeting place? Like, there was just a lot going on there that I was like, wow, I'm waiting for answers on this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if we'll get a completely detailed, list of everything on the map and what all his abbreviations mean. Maybe we don't need to know. Maybe it's just a thing of where he's got a plan and we're going to see it play out.
Right, right.
Uh,
And I have a feeling that'll be it. Although, there'll be some like fan page that'll have all that stuff. So we got to watch for that.
yeah, we'll repost it if we see that. So let's get into it. I mean, the first thing we see is that they're, walking back towards Charleston. Now, interestingly, Denny was with them because
Yes.
Denny was there, and I got the sense that they were all headed back towards Charleston to round up whoever was there, but they never really got the chance to do that.
Right.
We didn't see Denny though in the finale of season 3, but
No, that's
apparently
the thing.
she
I think
had.
you and I talked about on our Meet the Host that,
But apparently she had to have been there, or at least the story is saying, okay, she was there, but you didn't see her,
yeah,
something like that, because there she is in season 4, and it doesn't look like there's any reason to believe that she wasn't there, even though we didn't see
right.
her.
Right, exactly. Maybe they just either they forgot about the character, like she wasn't important to that part of the storyline. Who knows? But
Yeah, maybe they just didn't
Denny's
write
here.
her into the script, or she was in a quick scene that they decided to edit out, whatever.
Right,
But she's
right.
there now. I'm glad to see her back. I like her in this show. I like having her
Me too.
along. I think she adds. It looked like she had a thing with Ben, at least a good friendship last season. Now they're split up. Don't know if that's ever going to happen again, or who her kind of sidekick is going to be, if she's going to have one. I'm hoping that she'll keep developing, and we'll see a little bit more of her
Yeah, yeah. I'm
development and
hoping so
chemistry.
too.
Because
We
I do
we
like,
saw little Lexi here too.
yeah, little Lexi, and I guess that's the end of that. It was weird because she was playing like a normal girl, crying for her mom, the whole thing. But there's that part where she just says, "We don't all have to die here."
What was up with that? And
And
then
of
boom,
of
those
course,
gates fall.
of course, she's the first person to even notice that they're under attack.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
doesn't. And it's so weird because like she's the first person to notice, she's the first person to see it coming. So there's that, and she doesn't say, "Hey everybody, watch out, take cover, we're about to be under attack." She just calmly says, "We don't all have to die here."
Right.
And I'm guessing that's a kind of foreshadowing to the way we see her, kind of, the whole peace talk.
Well, and when Maggie talks about her and talks about her, knowing what's going to happen, I think that was really our first glimpse. So that by the time she told that story about her, we all believed it. We were like, yeah, Lexi knew.
Yeah. So Lexi is either some psychic something or other. She can see things coming,
Or she's tied into them somehow.
or she can control things.
Oh, see, I was thinking it was all like her connection with the aliens or clairvoyance, but you're saying control.
Well,
now,
what if she's
that
like
would be an interesting thing.
What if she's like mutant power and she's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. I can control lightning," and then boom, it happens.
No, what I was thinking when you said that, I actually, once again, I had a different thought on that. What if she's not so good? What if she can control things, but she's controlling things to gain her power? Because wasn't there a reference, I think it was last season, about the one rising from the humans? Were they talking about her? Because we kept thinking then it was Karen.
Wait, what is that?
Well, remember last season when we talked about Karen and we talked about her being the other leader, and we kept.
You're talking about the new Overlord.
Yes.
And that the new Overlord is human.
Right. But what if we were just given that hint last season and not given anything in reality? Now it's Lexi, and she is growing as Overlord. We're going to think she's a good guy for a while, but really all she's doing is controlling things and undermining things, which is very possible.
I don't get the sense that was the reference. I believe that the reference they made was to Karen at that time, and I don't.
You know what?
I don't think.
I am full of crackpot theories, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay, you go ahead and stick with it.
And wait a minute. We should have a tally, because didn't my crackpot theories start to come true last year?
I think you're going to have to play back some of that audio, because I think the jury is still out on that.
But you know what, Frank? We don't own that audio. That was a completely different network.
It's still out there on the web.
You know what? As far as I'm concerned, it's water under the bridge. I win. So we'll go with that. You're like, yeah, right, Rob. Yeah, we're not going with anything.
So I'm wondering, though, Lexi, we're wondering what side is she on? I mean, she's talking about peace, so, I mean, that sounds nice.
Right. But is she doing that to soften the resistance?
Yeah, maybe, but she's doing it on a small scale. I mean, she's just got that little group, it's not a huge group of people. And I mean, she's definitely not for, like, taking over the world one way or another. She's not for the s4e or against them. She's just like, hey, we put our guns down, they'll stay out of our hair, and, we'll just enjoy life.
Sure,
so,
sure.
But going back to the conversation of her having control, I'm thinking of maybe she's got some sort of, like, mutant type gift. Did you see the way, like, she put her hand in the moonlight and, like,
yes,
reflected it? And I'm just wondering, she's got something. She's got powers. She's got gifts. There's something. So I'm wondering, does she just know that lightning is going to strike, or did she actually make it happen?
Right. Yeah, I think those are answers that we're going to get as the season unfolds. I'm really intrigued. I want to know.
Yeah.
You know what? As long as we're kind of skipping around, I want to skip around to one other thing that I loved.
Let's do it, Skipper.
That was Action Annie.
Oh, yeah. She
didn't have a lot to do the last couple seasons.
She got kind of BA here. I put on the Facebook, looks like we have a new sheriff in town. I mean, no one... I was thinking she's like the new Tom.
Yes.
But it seems like her driving force is to get back with her family, most importantly Lexi. Doesn't know where she is, and Anne's still looking for a small child.
Right. Yeah, she's going to be very surprised very soon.
Yeah. So she's definitely turned into someone who's a leader and who is more military than Doctor. I mean, the
Yeah.
way she's calling the shots, the way
Hey
she's
man, when she threw
flinging,
that sticky bomb, was that the most awesome scene?
and she thought on her feet very quickly. I mean, she's
Oh
come a
yes.
long way now from just being a pediatrician.
Yeah. Yeah, she was awesome. That sticky bomb scene, that was another one I tweeted right out. I'm like, oh yes. Four
The
seasons,
one,
we finally get a sticky bomb and it's Annie throwing it. It was great.
and you get your gun. The one thing,
Boom.
she,
More musical references from Frank and Rob. Very nice.
you're thinking of Annie the musical.
Or Annie Get Your Gun. That was also a musical.
Oh,
So you
maybe
made it.
Annie
You
get
made a
your gun
good
is.
joke and you didn't even know it.
I'm a joker and I didn't know it. Hey, the one thing I didn't like about what she did was blowing the face off the driver because I really wanted to ask him a few questions, and I think she did too. But she killed him first thing. It would have been nice to stop the truck and like make an arrest. I mean, it looked like it was just one guy. You'd think
Right.
all you had to do was put a gun in his face and stop the truck. But no, she had to blow his face off, and so now we don't get to talk to him. But those kids, I mean, were those kids presumably being taken to Hitler youth camp?
Yeah. Once again, something I tweeted out. Because not about those kids, but I called that the Hitler Youth Camp. That are
A lot of people on Facebook were saying that.
yeah. Those kids, my first thought was that, and then I thought it reminded me of like refugees, and I thought I wonder if it wasn't if they were saving them and they attacked thinking that it was the bad guys, but it wasn't.
Whoa.
Like that could backfire. And
Another
now,
reason not to blow somebody's face off before you know what they're doing.
yeah, exactly. Because really, did you see like clearly defined these are bad guys at
No,
that point?
it was a guy driving a truck full of kids.
Right.
But things are weird now. We see humans working for aliens.
Yeah.
We see this team leader guy and the whole thing at the youth camp. And
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, how in just a short amount of weeks or a couple months, do you become that hardened? Are you just playing along out of fear, or are you really believing this?
Right.
It takes a long time to unlearn, if it's even possible. The aliens came and destroyed your way of life, killed your family, friends. In just a couple months, you're going to be talking about how they're providing a better way.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
a
you
little
gotta,
questionable.
and it's weird because they were saying how it's like they're not doing the eye worms anymore, they're not doing the harness anymore, they're not doing the mind games anymore.
Okay.
It's just straight up re-education.
That was something I found really interesting. No harnesses on those kids. And I'm like, yeah, they're saying it and we're seeing it, but is it as effective for them? Wasn't the harness thing pretty effective? Weren't the eye worms pretty effective? What is the story with this? And why are they taking this approach now?
Yeah, it's maybe I'm trying to think of like what changed. Well, the Volm came, and it's weird because the Asfeni were going to set up that grid, which was going to wipe out all life on Earth within
Right.
a relatively short amount of time. Now they seem like reverse course. Let's invest in humanity
Right. Let's
rather than kill them
enslave
all.
them.
And I'm trying to
And
figure out what could it be? And Tom was even kind of talking through that. They're keeping me alive for something.
yeah, well, and they also have changed a little bit. They've got those ships monitoring now. We didn't have those before.
Ghetto camps,
Yeah, we didn't have any of that before.
worldwide ghetto camps.
So what's going on with that? It's like a completely different approach. Do we have another group that's in charge now?
And it seems like you have different approaches by the Asfeni. At first they thought, okay, we'll basically wipe out, I don't know what, 90% of humanity. They'll be, weak. We won't worry about them. We'll mount our war against the Volm, and humanity, the whatever percent was left, did fight back. At least from what we've been seeing in this, northeast corner of
Right. We're
the
seeing a
United
very
States.
small sliver, but sure.
Right. But you got to presume that went on elsewhere too. Even we learned that these ghetto camps are worldwide, as we heard there at the end. So their strategy didn't just change in one place; it changed worldwide. Karen died. Maybe there's a new overlord in charge, but I thought Karen was pretty much just in charge of one.
Yeah, one faction.
Yeah, one location or one particular component of the
Well, that's why I
s4e.
said I don't think that she's. Maybe that isn't an overlord. Maybe we're calling it because that's what we were thinking, but maybe an overlord is somebody who's like, maybe there's 4 overlords that take the entire planet. And she was just like she was a middle manager.
I'm
Maybe
sure she wasn't,
somebody above that.
I'm sure there was someone, above her in the, ranking of s4e in the universe.
Maybe we find out that because she's a hybrid, that Lexi is that person or being.
It could be. I just don't think there's a ton of evidence for it.
Yeah, no, I don't think there is either. But you know what? I got to play there.
Okay. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, the same thing Tom's wondering. What do they think they're eventually going to do? I mean, why not just kill everyone in that camp?
Yeah, exactly. Why didn't they kill Tom? I mean, for sure. Why is he alive?
I think he'd be pretty wanted.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he's doing this where he's, getting out and he's the ghost and all that, it's like, that's really cool, but they have to know. They've got that eye in the sky now that they didn't have. The Skitters are like super aggressive. They're everywhere.
It's funny to me how they have like really, just really all this superior technology, but we continue to see how they just have gaping holes in a lot of their security.
Yeah.
Even back in season 1 when we were talking about look at the incredible technology they have, but what are they putting this tower together with? Just random scraps of metal? Just using basic
tricycles and
yeah, they're using the most basic of building techniques, and it's like, okay, you put this highly dangerous to them human in solitary confinement, and what his prison is made out of? What, Tinker Toys? I mean, he got right out, and now
why did they take him up on that ship? This guy, why would they not take him up on one of those ships?
What guy and what ship?
Tom, you've got a guy that's this dangerous. You've got this guy that is a problem. Why wouldn't you take him up to one of those ships? You've got the eye in the sky up there.
You mean have him as a prisoner in there?
Yeah. Get him off the planet. Get him away from other humans where he obviously can cause some issues.
Yeah, and it's like they want this ghost vigilante so bad. We saw there at one of the last scenes was the Overlord saying, find this guy. But you'd think it wouldn't be really hard to follow him and see where he's going, see where he's coming from. How hard would it be to put a camera in Tom's room?
Yeah.
And, see that he's getting out. And that
Ben figured it out by just looking through that little hole. Who? Ben. Dan.
Weaver.
Yeah, Weaver.
Okay, I was like...
he called him Dan through the whole thing, so it kept confusing me because I wanted to call him Weaver, but then I was like, okay, they're calling him Dan this season, but then I get confused because
it was Captain Weaver, the first couple seasons when he was, all
military.
But then Tom was elected president, and then it became just, Dan because they were friends and the whole thing, and now I guess it's just Dan, but, again, how hard would it be to put a guard by the door? How hard would it be to put a camera, some kind of monitor in the room? I mean, they have all this technology.
Post a Skitter outside of his door.
Something. I mean, they have all this technology, and they're letting it slip right. They're letting him slip right through their fingers, and I'm just like, oh, it's so weird.
Well, Frank, when you become an overlord, these are things you can instill.
Yeah.
Because you're probably next in line at this point.
And what do we make of Pope these days?
Pope is kind of living high on the hog, even though they're just dropping loot, and he's sitting there watching TV, hanging out. It's like
it seems like part of him is kind of given up.
Yeah.
Because he, just a season ago, he hated Skitters. He was all about the war. He was all about just killing aliens. Now he's he seems like, you know what, I'm gonna just put my head down and make the most of this prison I'm in. I
Yeah, the only
mean,
person he seems to be fighting now is Hal.
well, because Hal is trying to Hal, wants him to help try and get out of this prison, and I think Pope kind of sees that as a threat. Like, look, I'm a big fish in a little pond right now, and I'm okay with that. Um, but yeah, I'm like, oh, come on, Pope, what happened to you being a berserker, a fighter? I mean, I mean, even when you're just fighting for yourself, at least fight the aliens. Get away,
Right.
figure out a way to make yourself useful to someone, even if it's just for yourself. I mean, he used to cook for people, he used to fight with people. Now it's just all about himself. And I don't know. I'm hoping we see some. I'm hoping we see more Berserker Pope before too long.
I do too. I do too. But you know what? I think that we will, because even though they like to mix things up and they jump in the future and they change characters, a character like Pope, if you take his teeth out for too long, he becomes very uninteresting. So I have a feeling we'll see him like this for a little bit, and then it'll be one of these dramatic '80s action movies. We'll see him like putting on his belt and putting on his gun and
Da,
going off to fight the bad guy.
da, da. Yeah, pretty much.
Exactly. With your soundtrack.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll have an a cappella soundtrack the whole time.
Da da da.
Yep, just about. Um, so let's see, what else do we have? There's so many things. What about Matt in his dorm room leading a Bible study?
Yeah. You know what? The whole Matt thing is like, I don't know. It's pretty wild. Like I think that might be one of the things people didn't grasp onto, because it was very bizarre. At least that was to me.
What was bizarre? The whole youth
Just
camp?
yeah, the whole youth camp and Matt there and like the other characters. It was just a very bizarre thing. Like I need some answers for this, because I'm just very unsettled by it, I think.
It's bizarre because I think we think like this isn't gonna work. But I think
You're
the
right.
aliens are kind of like, well, we're trying new things here, and we're trying to make things work. I'm wondering about that team leader, though. I really wonder about that guy. Is he convinced on what he's saying, or is he just thinking, look, they made me team leader, and a lot of eyes are on me, and I got to do what I got to do, and I got to get these other kids to try and do what they got to do, otherwise I'm
Well,
in some big trouble.
the thing about him that I was wondering is, I wonder if maybe he's one of the older harnessed ones. Like he has the old harness that's been taken off, but he was, mind controlled from back then. So it's not like he's gone through this youth camp and now he's like, okay, drinking the Kool-Aid and this is what I do. It's more, he was turned back when they were turning the others. And now he's that guy. But we don't see the harness or anything, just like we didn't see it on Karen.
Could be. Yeah, that definitely seems plausible. It's just, yeah, it is bizarre because like I'm thinking, like a human, this wouldn't work on me. You're creating,
Right.
you're creating actors. You're not creating people who are being convinced. You have not converted a man just because you've silenced him.
Right. Right.
So, but it's an interesting new world that we're seeing.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. But to me, that might have been one of the things that set people off a little bit, because it was just very bizarre to me watching it. Like, what is going on here? And I think a lot of people just want to see action. They want to see skitters getting their heads blown off. And maybe that was just a little too much. Like, oh, we're dealing with like Nazi war camp stuff and Hitler Youth, and what is going on here? What's with all the
Yeah.
threes?
Yeah. I don't know what that was. Speaking of threes, maybe you can clear this up for me, but I was not sure what Lexi meant when Ben asked her what's that necklace about, and she said like, oh, this is like
It's unity.
yeah, it's unity. We're gonna keep the three of us safe. She said the three of us,
Yes.
and I was like, what three is that exactly?
Yeah.
I was trying to think.
Didn't get the three.
Is that
and
Ben, Lexi, and Anne? Is it
I
Lourdes?
don't know.
Is it what? I mean, I was like,
I don't know.
who
And
is
the
that?
thing is, I was fixated on that necklace. Did you keep looking at that necklace? Because I'm like, okay, it's unity, but what is that actually representing?
She had a huge huge model of that in her room that she
Ye-
looked like was pretty important to her.
Yeah, that I think is going to be one of those things that when we finally find out what that really is, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be a major plot point.
I'm wondering if it's Vol, Nesfeni, and humans.
You know what? That was exactly what I was thinking. Or once again, is it somebody else? Is it somebody else? Is it the fish heads? Is it the fish heads, the humans, and something else? And what was up with those black hornet things?
Were they black?
Well, they're called. If you go on the Falling Skies website, they have videos for each of these things. And in fact, I think we put it on our Facebook page, and I believe that they called them black hornets.
They looked green to me.
Yeah, but I think that's what they call them. When I saw the first, like the pictures of those things, I thought they were going to be the size of hornets. Yeah. They are skitter sized.
They're large and in charge.
Holy cow. Those things, like, I wasn't freaked out enough by the idea of them being hornets. Now when I see them, I'm like, this is so much worse. That they're these giant, like, flying skitter guys. Terrible. It's awful.
And it seems like their main activity is picking people up off the ground and putting them in jail.
Yeah, maybe that's all they really are, is jailers. Like they're like the skitters or fighters, these hornet things. Maybe all their whole purpose is you can't resist them. We swoop in, we grab you, we drop you where we want you, and that's it. So once again, maybe they're just drones for the overlords.
What do you think we're going to see next, especially with... I'm interested in Anne. She had that moment where she woke up from that dream. She called it a memory.
Yeah.
Did you see the upcoming scenes?
Yes.
Little snippet. It looked like there was a scene of Anne connected to a fish head.
Yes, by like some umbilical cord.
Yeah. How weird was that?
How about the other one that when they showed him burn the fish head? I was like, what in the heck? Because they've been close to these guys before and never been able to do anything. And it looked like they put fire on him and he was burning up. I was like, whoa, we're going to have some action this season.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it was real quick. It looked like they that gun that Tom had that threw the fire?
Yeah.
Looked like that's what he used or somebody used and was burning a fish head.
Yikes.
Yeah. And one other thing, this new character that has, I don't know how to say his name, but the guy who has been in multiple camps and has escaped multiple times.
Mr. Echo.
What are you thinking of? Oh, I like that. What are you thinking of this guy?
I think he's going to be a cool part of the season. I like this kind of character, this Mr. Echo kind of guy who's knowledgeable and resourceful, but he's also kind of humble, but also kind of he'll let you know sometimes. I think he's gonna have a place in this episode or this season. I'm really looking forward to what he's gonna do. He's approaching Hal and Tector because they've been kind of like the main spearheads of trying to get out of this ghetto camp. Not really successful yet, but I think this character is going to team up with them, and we're going to see some more development as far as getting through. And I'm just looking at this like kind of force field thing going. I mean, can you jump through one of the openings? Can you dig under it? Can you put a ladder? I'm trying to think of like
to
things
me it sure looks like they're going to have to break it somehow. They're going to have to find a way to disrupt that fence.
There was one Facebook commenter who said Tom had one of those Volm guns in the beginning there, and he was shooting the mechs. Why didn't he just shoot one of the pillars that set up the?
That's a good point.
The fence thing, and yeah,
that's a really good point.
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe I don't know how many shots you can get off with one of those things. I don't know if he had the chance before because as soon as he shot that mech,
fast enough.
As soon as he shot that mech, the kickback or the whatever it was, the reaction of it blew him on the ground, and he was kind of incapacitated for
Right.
a moment there, and that maybe that's all it took. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see. But that's an interesting thought. Um, I'm looking forward to next episode.
Yeah, me
And these are
too.
going to be, Sunday nights TNT, 10 Eastern, 9 Central. So, Robert, we are on Facebook at
Yes.
find us there. Second Mass Report, Falling Skies Podcast. We're also on Twitter at Second Mass Pod. And we're hoping to get some new followers. We're hoping to get some likes on Facebook. We're hoping really to get some good discussion going. I guess a lot of people were really upset with this episode. I'm saying give it another chance. I mean,
yeah, don't give up on it.
Don't stop watching it just because one episode wasn't your favorite or you were frustrated because there were more questions than answers. We have 11 more episodes coming this season, and I really think it's going to be a good one. Questions will be answered. A couple of things from last season that I'm hoping we still get answers for that I'm kind of worried about. Really, since season 1, we've been wondering what are the full long-term effects of the harness. We saw some of the skids last season, just in like one episode. We didn't see any yet. I don't know if we're going to. I don't know if they've kind of given up on that, the whole harness thing, and that's just, we're pretty much done seeing anything having to do with harnesses. I still feel like I want to know what's the end, what's the final process of the harness, look like, what are its final effects.
Yeah, I doubt we are done with it. I think we'll see that unfold.
Okay, so that was one of the main things.
Yeah, I really think that this show doesn't seem to drop things. It may take a while, but they do give us answers.
The other thing was Rebel Skidders. Did they all die, or do we still have Rebel Skidders?
Yeah, are they out there? Are they going to help them get through that fence? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and it was the harnessed kids, or a harnessed kid, or at least someone who had been formerly harnessed, that allowed the Skidders to communicate with the humans. So if we lose the harness, we kind of lose that too. And
right.
I'm hoping that, I really hope that as much as we're not seeing, new harnessed kids, that we're still going to see some skids or, whatever's going on there. So send us your theories, send us your questions, send us whatever is on your mind, and we will be happy to get out there and talk with you. Oh, hey, we are on Gmail, email. We have an email address is what I'm trying to say. Send us one of those newfangled email things at secondmassreport@gmail.com. We can answer emails or give you a shout out on the podcast, answer your questions, or deliver any comments that you'd like to put on the podcast. We'll do that for you. So hopefully
let me throw one more thing in here. You can find past episodes of this and then all of the other podcasts on our network. We've got over 30 different titles going right now at our website, which is www.southgatemediagroup.com. And that's another area where just this week we just started adding a little blogging. So hopefully we're going to get somebody who's interested in blogging about Falling Skies and about this kind of stuff. We might get some blogging going in there.
The Southgate Media Group is hiring.
Yes, we are.
Hiring volunteers.
Yes, we are. No one said anything about pay.
Right. Not yet, at least.
Right.
But we're also looking for voices, too, correct?
Yes, always. Always. So if you're interested, contact us. Do it through the email. That's the best way.
Great. All right, I think that about wraps it up. We will have another talk next week. Rob, anything else you want to put in there?
One last thing. We are live tweeting during the show, so join in the conversation there. Use the hashtag Falling Skies. We also will probably come up with a hashtag of our own, like SMG or something, just so that the people that are watching with us have a way of communicating with each other while we're watching it live. So we'll tweet that out from our Twitter page next week.
Good deal, Rob.
There you go.
All right. Well, the Falling Skies podcast is a production of the Southgate Media Group. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay active, and stay brave.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.